is no ion formation in the covalent bond, what does it mean? It means that there is no ionic bond, or there is no ions present in the entire scenario. What happens in covalent bond is that the two elements come close to each other and they both share their electrons. To understand better how sharing looks, you can see this diagram here and I'll explain you more about it. But let us understand it with a real life example. So suppose I'm preparing for my exam and I don't know what is happening in the chapter which is periodic table. I don't understand periodic table at all. I've tried to study it. I'm not understanding it whatsoever. Whereas you have a friend who is studying for the same exam and he is able to understand periodic table, but he is not able to understand carbonated compound lesson. Okay, so there are two lessons for the exam. You are able to understand carbon and the compounds lesson and not the periodic table lesson, whereas your friend is able to understand periodic table lesson and not the carbon and compound lesson. So what can you both do now? You can do one thing. Your friend can teach you periodic table and you can teach him carbon and its compounds lesson. This way, both of you are sharing your knowledge with each other. You're teaching him one lesson and he's teaching you another lesson. What is the end result of it? You know, at the end of the day, you know both carbon and its compounds lesson as well as periodic table lesson. Similarly, your friend knows carbon and compounds lesson and periodic table lesson. So both of you are benefiting and both of you are forming a covalent bond, which is nothing but sharing of electrons, which is very similar to sharing of knowledge. Because when I share a knowledge with you, I am not losing the knowledge and you are gaining the knowledge. So the knowledge remains between both of us, which is very similar to what happens in covalent bonds. Okay, so when I'm talking about covalent bonds and ionic bonds, there are a lot of terms that you have to keep in mind. One of the major term is what is an ion, what is a cation, what is an anion. There is a lot of confusion regarding cation and anion, and you might keep getting confused even after you pass your 10th standard. I want to eliminate this confusion whatsoever for permanently. Okay, so for this we'll do one activity. I'm showing you a picture here. What is happening in this picture? There is an electrode. Okay, so let us not go deep into what electrode is or anything like that. Let us just say electrode is very similar to magnet. So how magnet attracts iron towards it, electrode attracts ions towards it. So you know positive is always attracted by negative and negative is always attracted by positive. So there are two electrodes, one is positive and the other one is negative. So the positive electrode can be shown with a symbol called as plus, negative electrode with a symbol called as minus. So as soon as you see plus, what comes to your mind? Addition. Okay, so the plus electrode is called as anode and the negative electrode is called as a cathode. Okay, so make sure when you see plus sign, it is an anode electrode and a cathode electrode. Alright, so anion is attracted towards anode. Cation is attracted towards cathode. This is very easy to remember. Anion towards anode, cation towards cathode. Okay, so when you know anode is a positive electrode and it attracts anion, positive always attracts negative towards it. So when anode is positive, anion is a negative ion. So you can say anion has a negative charge. Alright. Similarly, cathode attracts cation towards it. So when you're saying cation, cathode is a negative electrode and cation is a positive ion which is being attracted towards it. Now we're very clear about what an ion is, what an anion is, what a cation is. We also learned what a cathode and an anode is. So I don't want you people to get confused with these terms ever again, and you have to be very clear on what anion is, cation is. For that, the simplest tool that you can use is put a plus sign, and that becomes your anode, and from there you can derive all of the other terms. Alright, so let's move on to the next topic now. Alright, now we're going to study what are the main properties of carbon and what makes it form a covalent bond, because of what factors does it form a covalent bond, and we'll also see some examples of covalent bond forming. So first we should see how carbon looks like. So as you can see, carbon has 6 protons, 6 neutrons and 6 electrons. And because of this, it has an atomic number of 6. So which is that deciding factor because of which we can determine its atomic number. Now, atomic number for an element is very similar to the name that you have, that you've given to your school. Suppose your friends call you by one name and your parents call you by one name at your house. So one person might have several names, supposedly 3 names. Okay, so which is your real name? When I ask you your name, the name that you've given to your school, the name that your teacher calls you is most probably your real name, or the name by which you are identified by. So similarly, we have a lot of elements in a lot of components in one element. Suppose you take carbon, you have protons, you have electrons, you have neutrons, but the atomic number is decided based on the number of protons in the atom. This is because the number of electrons in the atom can vary, because as you have seen in an ionic element or in an ion, you can see that sometimes it might have excess electron or sometimes it might have deficiency of electron. So similarly, you can't decide a number or you can't give a permanent number or a name to an element based on number of electrons. So protons, number of protons is the deciding factor to give an atomic number for an element. So the atomic number for carbon is 6 because in its K shell, that is the first shell, it has 2 electrons, and its outermost shell it has 4 electrons. So what is this K and L? So what are shells first of all? Shells are basically the orbits around an element of an atom. So atom of the carbon element consists of protons and neutrons, and now surrounding this atom, like how Earth surrounds the moon or revolves around the moon, there are some electrons which are revolving in an orbit around the atom. Okay, so atom is the power which is holding the electrons close to it, and that is because of protons present in it, and the electrons keep revolving around it. Now there are different stages of orbits or ranges of orbits. The orbit which is very close to the atom, it has the lowest energy. The orbit which is farthest away from the atom has the highest energy. Okay, so basically shells are nothing but the energy levels or the orbits in which electron revolves around the atom or the nucleus of the atom. Okay, so when I'm saying there are different ranges of energy, and the energy of the shell which is very close to the nucleus of the atom is the lowest energy. You can compare this with the students in your class. So when you have a lot of benches in your classroom, there will be a lot of benches. So the first bench students are the one who are very studious, who want to silently listen to the lessons. And the backbench students are the ones who are very mischievous and who keep making a lot of noise. So you can say the energy of the people who are in the first bench is very low, or you can say that they're not making too much noise during the lesson. Whereas the energy of the people sitting in the last bench is very high. They're screaming when the teacher is making or teaching some lesson. So in this scenario, when the teacher turns back to catch hold of the person who is making the noise, the people who are sitting in the last bench will be thrown out of the class first, because they are the ones who have high energy, they're the ones who are making a lot of noise. They will be sent out of a class as a punishment. It is very similar to the case in the atoms as well, because the outermost shell of the nucleus has the highest energy. So the atom with the electrons with high energy, they are very unstable, because since the nucleus of the atom is very far apart from the orbit or the shell that is last, or the end shell, so the attractive power that these electrons are experiencing because of this nucleus is very low, because of which they have a lot of energy and they want to go to another element which has some more energy such that they can sustain there. They want to move away from this electron or this element. Okay, it is very similar to the classroom again. So when the first benches are sitting, they're very close to the lecturer and they can hear what the lecturer is telling very clearly, and they pay attention. Whereas people in last bench, they're not able to hear what the lecturer is telling, so they start talking amongst themselves. I start talking with my friend and I don't listen to what the lecturer is telling, and after some time the lecturer gets mad at us and they send us out of the classroom. So this is what happens in the atoms as well. We have to understand that K shell has a higher amount of energy than L shell. L is the second shell which comes. So carbon contains of two shells, because it has in the first shell it has 2 electrons, in the second shell it has 4 electrons. Now to complete its octet, it needs 4 more electrons, because in the L shell you need 8 electrons totally to attain its octet. Okay, so for this, if we are going in the direction of ionic bond, what ions form? First of all, if carbon has to form an ion, it has to do one of the two things. The first thing is that it has to take 4 extra electrons from some element which is present in the atmosphere. So by taking more electrons, it has a -4 charge, and thus it becomes the anion. Okay, we should remember that anion is negative and cation is positive, because anode is positive. Okay, that we have already gone through, so please make sure you keep this in mind. So when carbon anion is formed, you have at the nucleus you have 6 protons, but in the surrounding you have total of 10 electrons, because it originally had 6 electrons. It took 4 more electrons to make sure the octet is complete, and because of this you have 10 electrons but only 6 protons. This is very similar to saying you have studied only 6 answers, you know only 6 answers, or answers for only 6 questions in your exam, but your teacher gives you 4 extra questions for which you don't know the answers at all. So totally there are 10 questions, but you know answers only for 6 of the questions. So there is no balance and you can't get your desired mark or full marks, and you will be happy only when you get full marks. Okay, so this is the first scenario, and this is not sustainable because 6 protons can't hold 10 electrons around it. Okay, there is a huge imbalance in the power, and this anion, that is carbon anion, does not exist in the nature. Similarly, there is a second case possible. The second case is that if the carbon ion or the carbon element is not able to obtain octet by taking in electrons, it can just give away 4 of the electrons and attain a noble gas configuration of helium. Okay, so when it gives away 4 of the electrons, it is remaining with only 2 electrons in its K shell. So L shell is completely empty. But in the nucleus there are 6 protons, but the number of electrons are very less. Suppose now You have studied for 6 questions and you know the answers for 6 questions. When you go to write the exam, your teacher tells you should write answers only for 2 questions, even though you know answers for all 6 questions. Now, your aim is to get full marks in the exam and you know all the answers, but your teacher is not allowing you to write answers for the 4 questions that you know. You will get angry, you are not happy with it, and you will not allow that to happen. So this is the same case with the atoms as well. When you have 6 protons and when you have only 2 electrons, the atom is not happy because it needs to be balanced. It needs more electrons. Okay, so these 2 cases where you have, first case you have carbon anion and carbon cation, and both of them are not possible because both of them will cause high instability, and that is the reason there is no ion formation in carbon whatsoever. So what is the only option that it has? It has to share its ions. So how does this sharing happen? As I've already told you, when I have a knowledge of a chapter and you have a knowledge of another chapter, when we exchange it with each other, we have knowledge of both the chapters. Both of us have knowledge of both the chapters. Right now, what is happening is carbon can form covalent bond with many of the compounds. So let us not consider carbon for the moment. Let us consider chlorine. So what happens in chlorine? It has valence electrons which are 7 in number. It has 7 valence electrons. It just needs one more electron to form the octet or the noble gas configuration. So what it has to do is it combines with another chlorine atom and both of them share one atom together. That is, this chlorine atom gives one atom to the other chlorine and the other chlorine atom also gives one chlorine atom. Both of them give one electron to each other, and both the chlorine atoms exist this way, and the electrons that they are sharing exists in between both the atoms. And since they are sharing one electron each, this is signified by a single bond. Alright, so this is about chlorine. Similarly, you have other elements, actually displaying the same properties. For example, you have oxygen. So what does oxygen do? It has 6 valence electron and it needs 2 more electrons to complete its bond. So what does one of the oxygen atom do? It gives 2 electrons, and the other oxygen molecule also gives 2 electrons. Totally there are 4 electrons in the sharing space. Okay, and these two atoms, that is one oxygen atom and the other oxygen atom, shares these electrons. Similarly with nitrogen as well, but nitrogen has just 5 valence electrons and it needs 3 more electrons to complete its octet. So what does it do? So one nitrogen atom gives away 3 electrons to the sharing region. The other nitrogen atom also gives away 3 electrons to the sharing region. So totally they have 6 electrons in the sharing regions. So 6 electrons meaning 3 bonds. So there are 3 lines that we have to draw, single lines, and so there are 3 bonds between both of the nitrogen atom. So this is how covalent bond is being formed. Now if we have to do some more deep analysis on how carbon is being involved in a covalent bond with other elements, we can give an example of carbon sharing its bond with 4 of the hydrogen atoms. So how does this happen? So carbon stays in the middle. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens surrounding carbon. Now we know that carbon has 4 valence electrons and hydrogen has just 1 valence electron, and it needs just one more electron to make sure it achieves the octet configuration. So what does it do? 4 hydrogen atoms come to carbon asking for 1 electron. So carbon is giving 1 electron to the sharing space and the hydrogen is giving its 1 electron to the sharing space. So in one of the sharing spaces there are 2 electrons. Similarly, there are 4 sharing spaces. This is provided by 4 of the hydrogen electrons. So in this configuration, you can say that carbon has formed 4 covalent bonds with the hydrogen atoms. This is an example of carbon forming covalent bond with the element which is not carbon or some other element. So an example that I can give is, your teacher has some knowledge about a topic and 4 of you in the class have doubts regarding that topic. So 4 of you go approaching to the teacher, and she clarifies all your doubts, and all of you are happy because all of your doubts have been cleared, and your teacher is happy that all of you have understood. So this is the basic examples of covalent bonds, and how what is the behavior of a carbon atom, how it is seen, what is an anion, cation, and how do you make sure an ionic bond happens, and when does covalent bond happen, how are these two different, and different examples of covalent bond. So all these things have been covered in this video. In the next video, we are going to go in depth in the same topic. The same lesson will be continued, and we'll be starting with allotropes of carbon. So do make sure that you continue watching the same series of videos to complete this chapter, and all the best for your 10th exams. Thank you so much.